I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, happy Saturday. Hopefully everyone's having a good weekend. Let's do one of the blogs I enjoy doing the most, the positive attitude you need to have in life for success, that proper, buy and hold, tune out the noise type stuff that I always like to pound home to you guys on Saturday. So in my comment section, I get this, I've had this a few times. People have said, well, Owen, go through some of the ways that how you became successful. How did you make your first $1 million in net worth? Well, if you read my book, Along for the Ride, if you haven't, you should pick it up for $10. I go through a full roadmap there on all the steps for the last 25 years that I've done on how I started. I bought my first investment property just before my 19th birthday. I still own it today. And the process, the steps I took, they were slow, just one day at a time, 1 year at a time. And before you know it, though, you're a multimillionaire. I tell you, it sneaks up on you. But it was very simple. I didn't do anything tricky, didn't buy this, sell that, hedge that. It was just a simple buy and hold, what Jack Bogle or Warren Buffett or Peter Lynch or any of the greats would tell you to do. You just take these small steps, get a game plan together, and then stick with that game plan through thick and thin. So the first steps that I took was I paid myself first. This has been around forever. Pay yourself first. For me, in the early years when I was still living at home, I was paying myself 25-30%. I was working odd jobs and part-time jobs while I was going to school, but I was living at home, didn't have any expenses really to speak of. So I was able to bank a whole bunch of money and still have a good time, still go out with my friends, still buy a car and everything else. But I paid myself first and I didn't save that money. You're not going to get anywhere saving it. If you want to save a small emergency fund, by all means do that. Most financial advisors will tell you to do that. But I didn't even, as far as an emergency fund, I never kept an emergency fund in cash or in a bank account. I bought Bell Canada shares or Enbridge or Suncor or Canadian Royal Bank or TD and collected a fat dividend, way better return than you'd get from a savings account, which was basically zero. But you do it any way you want. It all depends on where you're at in life, if you're living at home or whatever. But you've got to get that money working for you. You have to invest it. After your emergency fund, you got to get it working. The two best ways are through real estate and buying high quality equities, hopefully ones that pay a dividend. Second thing is I invested the money in myself. I got better. I started a career in real estate. I got better at my job, read books, became a better salesman, became a better marketer. You invest in yourself, you read, you take courses, you take seminars. That's one of the best return on investments, ROIs you're going to get, is investing in yourself. The third thing is, the final thing is, that I tuned out all the noise. So I set up a game plan. People would criticize you pretty much every investment property I bought. People thought, you're nuts. Why are you paying? My first property was $52,000. I still own it today. You're nuts to pay $52,000 for a one-bedroom condo. Everyone along the way, including my very first detached house, people thought I was crazy paying that kind of money. At that time, it was $425,000 for a detached house. You're nuts. Tune all of it out. Focus on your game plan, taking those small steps, and you're not going to see a lot of huge returns in the beginning. After a while, though, you'll start to see where it goes. You start collecting the cash dividend checks from your stock portfolio every 3 months, every quarter. The rent checks are coming in from your tenant. Most of that, of course, is going to cover your costs, and you might even have to supplement it a little bit in the early years. But over the long term, you will accumulate some incredible capital gains, and your tenants are paying most of your costs, and you've got a lot of great tax deductions. Some other things I want to touch on quickly here. Guy I follow on Twitter, he kind of came up with these 5 mandatory things that you have to learn if you want to be successful. I cover these in my book. These are there. And he also claims that, and I've also talked about it many times, why aren't these 5 things taught in grade school? They should. They should be starting to teach people this in grade 6 or 7, and this should run all the way through high school. Why we don't teach any of this stuff in school, I don't know. A lot of people would say it's a conspiracy theory. I got a lot of people that'll say that. They want to keep you down. They don't want you knowing this stuff. They want to keep you kind of dumb and plodding through life without taking control of your financial destiny. They must, because this should be basic stuff. Here's the 5. Taxes. Yeah, you've got to know the basics of taxation. Taxes are incredibly boring. God, they're boring. And I have an accountant. And you should get an accountant too once you get to, once you start earning some money, and especially once you buy an investment property and you start buying stock, you're probably going to want an accountant to file your taxes and consult him. But you have to learn the basics of taxation yourself. How the RRSP works, how the TFSA works, how you're taxed on capital gains, the principal residence exemption. You have to learn the basics of this. It can't be spoon-fed, and there's some incredible resources. Canadian Couch Potato, go to their tax section, spend 10 or 15 hours in there just learning the basics. That's all you need to know. After that, pass it on to your accountant, but you've got to learn the basics here. People will talk about, a TFSA and buying U.S. stocks and dividends in a TFSA, not knowing there's a 15% withholding tax on it. They're surprised. You've got to learn this. That's why in your TFSA, you should probably be putting more growth stocks in there that either don't pay a dividend or pay a small dividend if it's a U.S. stock. If it's a Canadian stock, sure, if you want to put in a high yielder like an Enbridge in there, great, because those dividends are sheltered. You got to learn this stuff. Money management, yeah, basic money management. Paying yourself first, budgeting, all that good stuff. Retirement planning, again, learn the basics of this stuff. When Canada Pension Fee comes in, old age security, pension programs, living off your dividends in retirement. How are you taxed on these things? You got to learn the basics. Real estate investing. Yeah, again, you've got to learn real estate investing. This, as I've often said here, more wealth has been created in Canada by the principal resident exemption than all other sources combined. I can attest to that. I've got many clients that have become multimillionaires just off their principal residence. Take advantage of this stuff, guys. Buy your principal residence sooner rather than later. One of the main reasons is to take advantage of that principal residence exemption. It's incredible. It's the only thing they give us here in Canada. And stock market investing. Learn the basics of stock market investing. What a PE ratio is, what the dividend payout ratio is, how to read a balance sheet, cash flows, free cash flow. Or if you don't want to do too much of that stuff, just index invest. But again, learn the basics of how indexing works. You need these things: taxes, money management, retirement planning, real estate investing, stock market investing. Should be taught in school, but you got to learn this stuff. A couple of last little things. I'll leave you with a couple of quotes here because we're in some tough times right now in the stock market. My portfolio has been taking a beating, absolute beating. I'm not going to tell you guys how much I'm down, but it doesn't mean much because it's just on paper. And I will never sell any of these stocks and these holdings because I've bought these as a lot of them will be lifetime holds, and I'm just going to live off the cash flows, live off the dividends and that increasing dividend revenue that they spin off for me. But we're in some tough times here, and you've got to stay the course. These are incredible opportunities, some of these sell-offs. I mean, I've been tweeting some of the stuff I've been buying here over the summer and into the fall. But, we've had some days down 700-800%, and then some days, as I speak today, where the market was up 750 points. This is why you stay the course. If you can, put some money to work in these drawdowns. And I've been locking in some incredible yields here. On the Canadian banks, on Bell Canada's now is back up to yielding close to 6%. These are good opportunities. You got to plug your nose, buy it, hold on to that, but have a plan. But Peter Lynch had this quote, far more money has been lost by investors trying to anticipate corrections than has actually been lost in the actual correction themselves. So yeah, so many people try and outsmart the market, sell before things go down. And of course, the market doesn't care. It'll take a rip on you and go up, 30 or 40% in the next 6 months. Just stay the course. If you've got the right companies, you don't have to do anything. Hold, and if you can, buy more on these corrections. That's what I've done. That's what I talk about in my book, and I've done lots of Saturday blogs on this. A great quote from Warren Buffett as well. Remember, you're dealing with a lot of silly people in the marketplace. It's like a great big casino and everyone else is boozing. If you can stick with Pepsi, you should be okay. So just keep a level head, stay calm. I do. I don't lose any sleep when the market drops 2,000, the S&P drops, or the Dow drops 2,000 points in a 3-week period. Sure, on paper, my portfolio is down, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's not a loss unless I'm forced to sell these stocks at a loss. And besides, all the stocks, I only have a couple of stocks that I hold right now that are in the red. Most of them, even though the market's pulled back between, well, the TSX is only down about 12% this year, but I've got some other stocks that are like Amazon and Google that are as down as much as 25, 30, 35%. I'm still up on these stocks though. They're still green for me because I bought these many, many years ago and added to them. It's only the stuff that I bought recently, that's taken a hit now that I'm probably in the red on. But, I'm still, if you bought the right companies, I'm still incredibly bullish on all the stocks I hold in my portfolio. And most of them are doing what they're supposed to do. Most of my holdings are paying me a fat, either a quarterly dividend, or I've got a lot of ETFs that pay me a monthly dividend. Those cash flows come in through thick and thin. They don't care what the underlying stock value is or what the markets are doing. These are cash flow machines. They keep pumping out this money to me, and then every 2 or 3 weeks I put it to work and buy more shares on what I think is a good buy or what I want to add to my portfolio. And some of these are at incredibly good prices right now. They're off 25, 30% and are paying fantastic dividends. Just stay the course. As you guys know with me, I don't really care about the overall value of my portfolio. What I'm concerned with is what does this portfolio produce for me in a quarterly dividend and what that adds up to every year. For me, it's several $100,000. That comes in through thick and thin. It's a big portfolio I've got. You guys can get there too. As I say, it starts with small beginnings. You start with one condo. You start with 10 shares of Pepsi, which is my first purchase, 35 years ago. That will snowball. It's just small steps you take, but you've got to keep a game plan here. You can't get spooked when the market drops 20%. It's par for the course. If you want the fantastic long-term returns of what Vancouver real estate will do, or the S&P 500, or the NASDAQ, you've got to hold these for long periods of time. I always say when you back away from the S&P 500, it's a rocket ride up. If you look closer, you'll see some years there where it's down 15, 20, 30%, and then some years where it treads water and then goes down another 10, and then some years where it spikes up 30 or 40%. Just stay the course. If you've got the right companies, they're paying you quarterly to hold them, you're going to do fine. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good weekend. See you next week.